Lyrian Vey stepped off the shuttle with diplomatic calm, her polished boots clicking softly against the gleaming metal deck of Unity Station. Orbiting above a pale blue gas giant, the station glimmered like a lens flare against the starlit void. It was massive, human-built but adapted for multilateral cooperation, and for Lyrian, it was both dream and trial. She adjusted the silver translator disc at her collarbone, calming her nerves. At 26 Earth years, 22 Kalenian cycles, she was the youngest ambassador her people had ever sent to represent the Council of Keelan. She was also, if her family's pressure meant anything, the one who had the most to prove. The shuttle bay doors hissed open with a hydraulic sigh, and she stepped forward. "Ambassador Vey," said a smooth voice to her right. She turned, finding a human male with a calm smile and a diplomatic badge over a sleek black uniform. "I'm Commander Cashin Holt. Cultural liaison and your mentor for the duration of your posting. Welcome to Unity Station." Lyrian inclined her head formally. "Thank you, Commander Holt. I am honored to serve here." Her voice came out clear and precise, almost musical, but the translator did the heavy lifting, rendering her words into flawless standard. "Please, call me Cashin. We're all equals here. Let me show you around." He offered a hand. Remembering her training, she took it. The warmth of human skin still surprised her, and so did the familiarity in his gray eyes. The station's interior was a swirl of color, species, languages, and smells. Lyrian had studied humanity's chaotic expressiveness, but it was nothing compared to the reality. Cashin pointed out key locations: the Arboretum, conference rings, diplomatic dormitories. "Your quarters are near the East Observatory," he said. "Good view of the Nidran Nebula." By the time they reached her assigned cabin, Lyrian was overwhelmed in the best way. Cashin smiled gently. "Take a few minutes to settle in. Then I thought we could grab dinner." "That would be agreeable," she replied, her stomach gurgling faintly. Unity Station's dining hall wasn't elegant, but it bustled with energy and life. They collected trays. Cashin had thoughtfully loaded hers with synthesized Kalenian staples, and settled at a quieter corner near a wide viewport. "I hope the food's familiar enough," he said. "The replicators have a few of your traditional dishes on file." She dipped her spoon and tasted it, spiced sea lotus with starch roots. Her eyes lit up. "Perfect," she said. "But I'm also curious to try human cuisine." Cashin grinned. "Brave choice. We have some wild flavors." They fell into easy conversation. Cashin talked about Earth's continents, space politics, and the little rituals of station life. Lyrian spoke of her oceanic homeworld, her family's diplomatic dynasty, and her passion for interstellar unity. Somewhere in the middle of it, she felt her nervousness melting. "So what drew you to diplomacy?" he asked. "I'm doing my best," Cashin replied, still slightly flushed. "May I borrow the ambassador briefly? We have a protocol matter to discuss." Cashin nodded, grateful for the break. "Of course." Cyril pulled Lyrian aside, his expression darkening. "My dear, did you intend to proposition your human host just now?" "What?" "No. I used the River Honor phrase." "Your translator," he said grimly. "They've never properly mapped Kalenian idioms. First-gen devices always trip on formal phrases. You just asked him for intimate guidance." Lyrian's eyes widened in horror. "Oh no." "Oh yes," Cyril said, dryly. "Don't make it worse by trying to explain. Calibrate your device tomorrow. Let the moment pass." Still dazed, Lyrian returned to the table. Cashin offered her a drink with forced calm. "Everything all right?" "Just a cultural reminder," she murmured, sitting down. Cashin gave a small, careful smile. "Well, if you ever need help navigating the complexities of human etiquette, I'm around." Lyrian's cheeks flushed darker blue. She looked at him anew, the warmth of his voice, the gentleness in his eyes. Her translator may have betrayed her, but something deeper had been sparked. And she wasn't sure she wanted to correct it. The lights of Unity Station shimmered through the viewport of Lyrian's quarters, but her mind was nowhere near the stars. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed, hands folded in her lap, trying to make sense of the swirling feelings in her chest. Cultural embarrassment was one thing. But what she felt about Cassian Holt, that was something else entirely. She hadn't meant to say anything provocative. Yet when he looked at her afterward, his eyes held more than just confusion. They held interest. And for all her upbringing, training, and Kalinian restraint, she found herself hoping it wasn't a misreading. Her translator device chirped softly, signaling a minor software patch. Idiomatic update, it said, emotionlessly. Phrase mapping adjusted. Cross-species metaphors corrected. A little late for that. There was a chime at her door. "Come in," she said, rising to her feet. Cassian stepped inside, holding a small wrapped container. "I figured you might not have dessert yet. You're probably not familiar with chocolate mousse, but it's kind of sacred." Lyrian accepted it with a polite nod, but her pulse quickened. "I appreciate your thoughtfulness." Again. He scratched the back of his neck. "So, about earlier. We should probably clear the air." She gave a wry smile. "You must think I'm wildly unprofessional." "No," he said quickly. "I think you were trying to be respectful, and your tech failed you. Honestly, I'm more embarrassed about choking on my drink like a teenager." Their laughter broke the tension, and for a moment, it was just two people sharing a strange day and a piece of mousse. But as the silence stretched, something charged lingered between them. "I've been studying human courtship rituals," Lyrian said suddenly, then winced at how absurd that sounded aloud. "I mean, just academically. For diplomacy." Cassian raised an eyebrow. "And? Well," she continued, a bit breathless, "you mentioned proximity and physical cues. You said some humans express interest through touch." He nodded slowly, uncertain. Lyrian reached across the narrow gap between them, letting her fingers brush his. The contact sent a tiny jolt up her arm. Cassian didn't pull away. "Like this?" she asked softly. His expression shifted, guarded curiosity turning into something more personal. "Lyrian, about what you said earlier." "I know," she interrupted gently. "It was a mistranslation. But I also know I felt curious. Not just about human customs. About you." The room seemed to narrow around them. "As your liaison," Cassian began carefully, "I should remind you that interdiplomatic relationships can be complicated. And as a woman far from home," she said, voice low, "I've never had the chance to choose for myself. Until now." Cassian studied her face, his fingers curling around hers. "Are you certain?" Lyrian leaned closer. "Yes." Their kiss was hesitant at first, exploratory. Then it deepened, warm and magnetic, a wordless agreement that bypassed all cultural protocols. They moved together in silence. There was no ritual. No Kalinian formality or planetary bonding rites. Just the gentle removal of uniforms, the press of skin on skin, the rhythms of two beings discovering one another. He was careful. Patient. Curious in return. Later, wrapped in sheets that smelled faintly of station detergent and shared breath, Lyrian lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. She had broken at least half a dozen protocols. She should have felt guilt. Instead, she felt something closer to freedom. Cassian stirred, his arm resting across her waist as if it belonged there. She let her fingers trace the lines of his hand, marveling at how something so simple could feel so profound. This wasn't duty. It wasn't strategy. It was choice. Her translator device blinked amber. "Update complete," it announced. "Prior error logged."
She stared at the glowing light. It knew. There would be a record of the mistranslation. If anyone dug deep enough, it could be used against her. Suddenly, everything felt fragile. Cassian shifted beside her, eyes still closed, voice low and gravelly. "You okay?" She hesitated. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About consequences." He opened his eyes, met her gaze. "Any regrets?" She shook her head slowly. "Only that I can't stay in this moment longer." He pulled her closer, forehead against hers. "We'll figure it out." But before she could reply, the translator pinged again. "Priority message." Lyrian reached over him to grab it, eyes scanning the screen. Her heart stopped. "A Kalinian delegation is arriving in 3 days," she whispered. "Led by Counselor Ather." Cassian sat up. "Is that?" "My betrothed will be with them," she said quietly. "It's an arranged match. Political alliance." He was silent for a long moment. Then, "You didn't mention an engagement." "I didn't think it mattered," she admitted. "I didn't expect them to come here. The ceremonies are usually conducted on Keeler." Cassian's expression closed off. "Well. Congratulations." "That's not fair," she said, reaching for him. He stood, collecting his uniform. "It's not about fair. It's about duty. And we both have ours." As he moved to the door, she blurted, "The translator made a mistake. I meant to thank you, not seduce you." He stopped, glanced back. "When did you find out?" "After the fact. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to undo it." Cassian's voice was unreadable. "That's a choice you made. And I'd make it again." He looked at her for a long moment, emotions fighting behind his gray eyes. Then finally, "Meet me at 1300. My office. We'll talk then." The door hissed shut behind him. Lyrian dropped back onto the bed, staring at the blinking translator. 3 days. She had 3 days before her future collided with her present. And she wasn't sure which side she wanted to win. The station's artificial lights were too bright. Or maybe Lyrian just felt too exposed. She moved through the corridor with purpose, but inside, she was chaos wrapped in protocol. Her dark teal uniform clung a little tighter than usual, her translator disc, freshly updated, felt heavier against her collarbone. At docking bay 6, Cassian was already waiting, back in full uniform, straight-backed, composed, unreadable. Lyrian tried to meet his eyes, but they didn't hold the warmth they had the night before. "Not in public." "Ambassador Vey," he said formally, projecting for the benefit of the surrounding personnel. He stepped slightly closer and lowered his voice. "We still need to talk." "I know. I didn't think they'd arrive so soon." Her sentence was cut short as the bay's airlock cycled open with a hiss of pressure. 2 tall Kalinian honor guards emerged, ceremonial armor gleaming with silver inlay. They flanked the entry as Counselor Ather strode through. Tall, imposing, and every inch the archetype of a Kalinian elder statesman, Ather's braided silver-white hair swung with each precise step. His robes shimmered with embedded circuitry and rank insignias. His expression was cold, judging, clinical. "Daughter of the Covenant," he said in High Kalinian, using the ceremonial title instead of her name. That alone was a message. Tradition first. No room for deviation. Lyrian bowed. "Counselor. Your arrival is earlier than expected. The station is not yet prepared for the proper rituals. Formality is secondary. The council's session concluded early. Preparations can proceed here." His gaze shifted to Cassian, eyes narrowing slightly. "Your human liaison." "Commander Cassian Holt," Lyrian replied, switching to standard. "This is Counselor Ather, High Council member of Keeler." Cashin executed a flawless Kalenian bow. "Counselor, welcome to Unity Station. We're honored to host you." There was a flicker of surprise on Ather's face. "You've studied our ways. I consider it a diplomatic responsibility." Ather gave a terse nod. "Commendable. Many humans do not bother." The counselor turned to his entourage, gesturing toward the ornate containers being unloaded. "These hold the ceremonial instruments for the bonding ritual. See to their safekeeping. The ceremony will proceed tomorrow." Lyrian froze. "Tomorrow? There is urgency. Political dynamics demand swiftness. The summit is in less than a cycle. The bonding must be completed beforehand." She felt the air leave her lungs. Cashin's shoulders stiffened beside her, his expression locked into neutral professionalism. "We'll prepare the observation deck for the event," he said evenly. "See that it meets Kalenian standards." As the delegation moved deeper into the station, Lyrian and Cashin lagged behind. "A bonding ceremony?" Cashin said under his breath. "Here. Tomorrow." "I didn't know," she whispered, eyes wide. "This isn't how it's supposed to go. Something's wrong." He looked at her, frustration simmering beneath his careful tone. "Well, this certainly simplifies things. Last night, whatever it was, can officially be filed under temporary diplomatic confusion. That's not fair." "Maybe not. But it's reality. Don't do that, Cashin. Don't shut me out." His voice dropped lower. "Then don't make me the person who has to pretend nothing happened." Before she could reply, one of Ather's aides stepped over and requested Cashin's assistance with ceremonial logistics. With a curt nod, he walked away, leaving her standing in the corridor, heart pounding. The rest of the day was a whirlwind. Her schedule was hijacked by Kalenian formality, dress fittings, ceremonial briefings, cultural reminders. It was stifling. Ather loomed over every moment, always calm, always watching. By nightfall, she couldn't breathe. She slipped away, past the guards, past the duty officers, and made her way to the station's arboretum. A biomech haven of earth flora and calming oxygen cycling, it had quickly become her favorite spot. She sat beneath a faux willow, surrounded by imported mosses and subtle music generated from plant data rhythms. "Good hiding spot," said a familiar voice behind her. Lyrian didn't look up. "Are you here to report me?" Cashin walked around and sat beside her, still at a respectful distance. This time, his expression was softer. "Station logs pinged your location. I figured you might want company more than a reprimand." She gave a tired laugh. "You're not wrong." They sat in silence. The rustling of artificial leaves above them felt more natural than anything else that had happened that day. "I'm sorry," she said at last. "I should have told you about the arrangement. You should have told me after you learned the translator messed up. I was afraid it would end things. And now? I don't know what I want," she admitted. "Except more time." Cashin exhaled slowly. "Time is a luxury we don't have." She reached out, hesitated, then rested her hand lightly over his. "What would humans do in a situation like this?" she asked. He gave a tired half-smile. "Depends on the human. Some would fight for what they want. Others would follow orders and live with regret. And you?" "I'm still deciding." Just then, something glinted on a nearby bench, metallic and out of place. Lyrian stood and picked it up, a data slate, the kind used by high-level aides. Its display flickered to life at her touch, revealing a file marked in bold security script. Operation Sundered Alliance. Encrypted, Elysian Supremacy. Lyrian's breath caught. "Cashin," she said, her voice low. "Look at this." He stood beside her, frowning at the file. "This is military-grade encryption. Why would a diplomatic aide have access to this?" She tapped in a set of override codes, legacy credentials granted to ambassadors of her rank. The file opened. Maps. Timetables. Communications with radical factions. Plans to manipulate the upcoming trade summit. Disruption of human-Keelan relations through covert sabotage. And at the center of it, her own upcoming bonding. "They're using my marriage as cover," she whispered, numb. "To derail a decade of peace talks," Cashin said grimly. Her hand shook as she scrolled. "Ather's behind it. This whole rushed ceremony, he needs me in place before the summit. It's a calculated move." Cashin looked up, eyes hard. "Then we can't let that ceremony happen." She closed the file and looked at him, fear replaced by resolve. "We'll need help. And we'll need someone who can get close to Ather." Cashin nodded. "What about your fiancé?" "Valen arrives tomorrow. If he's anything like his father, he'll be part of this. And if he isn't, then maybe he's the one ally I never expected." Cashin reached for the slate. "I'll take this to station security. You go to Ather. Act normal. We can't tip our hand until we're ready." They stood, closer now than they had been all day. "Be careful," he said. She touched his cheek, gently. "You too." And with that, they parted, her footsteps light but full of fire. In 12 hours, she'd nearly compromised her career, fractured an interspecies alliance, and ignited a scandal. Now she might be the only one who could stop a war. Her meeting with Counselor Ather was scheduled for dawn, but she arrived early, alert and controlled, her ceremonial robes flowing with each step. The quarters had been redecorated into a proper Kalenian meditation chamber, light filters adjusted to their species' preferred spectrum, calming incense, ritual mats on the floor. Everything perfect. Everything a lie. Ather sat kneeling in front of a carved blue wood panel, eyes closed in feigned serenity. He spoke without turning. "You're late, daughter of the Covenant." "I am early, Counselor." A pause. Then he opened his eyes. "With your human liaison, I presume." She lowered herself to the mat across from him, maintaining poise. "Commander Holt has been most helpful in orienting me to the station." There was something venomous in Ather's smile. "Helpful? Yes, I'm sure. My sources are thorough, Ambassador." "Did you believe your indiscretion would remain private?" Her spine straightened, heart pounding. "If you have questions about my conduct, Counselor, I will address them directly." "No riddles, then," he said. "Directness. How, human of you." He leaned forward, voice dropping to a private snarl. "I know precisely what occurred between you and the liaison. The question is, what shall we do about it?" Lyrian's throat tightened. Blackmail wasn't part of her training modules. Ather continued, calm and cold. "Your disgrace could destroy your family's standing. Disqualify you from diplomacy. Or," he smiled again, "you could proceed with the ceremony tomorrow, assist us in amending trade protocols during the summit, and I will forget your little error in judgment." Her fingers curled into the mat. "Those amendments would cripple the Rian corridor trade for humans. You're orchestrating sabotage." "Sabotage is such an emotional word," Ather replied, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve. "Strategic correction is more accurate." "An operation sundered alliance," she shot back. His expression flickered, but recovered quickly. "Ah. So you've been digging." "I found your aide's data slate." He sighed as though disappointed, not alarmed. "The humans are expanding too quickly. It is time the Keelan reclaimed our influence. You're working with radicals. I am preserving our supremacy. If you cooperate, everything proceeds smoothly. If you resist, your exploration of human culture becomes public record. Shall I inform your betrothed?" Lyrian stood, every inch the trained diplomat, but no longer the obedient daughter. Perhaps you should ask Valen how he feels about being manipulated. He arrives soon. We'll speak then. A knock interrupted them. Enter, Arthur called. The door opened. Valen Pra stepped inside. He looked like his father, tall, poised, formally dressed, but there was a tension in his expression. His eyes met Lyrian's with surprising softness. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said. Not at all, Arthur said. We were discussing your ceremony. Valen glanced at his father, then at Lyrian. Ambassador, would you care to accompany me to the observation lounge? We should become better acquainted. Lyrian saw it for what it was, an exit. Of course. Once they left the room and walked out of view, Valen's posture relaxed slightly. Ambassador Vey, he said quietly, I've been hoping to speak with you privately. You may call me Lyrian, she replied cautiously. Though I suggest we move somewhere less monitored. He nodded. Observation lounge. They walked together, maintaining a formally appropriate distance. Once inside the empty room, Valen made a small gesture toward the corners, standard Kalinian scan sweep for surveillance. Clear. He turned to her. I believe we have a common concern regarding my father. She blinked. You know. Not the specifics, he said. But I've suspected his involvement with the supremacy faction for some time. This sudden bonding. It's not about diplomacy, it's about control. Lyrian hesitated. Then, I have evidence. Detailed plans for economic destabilization. Sabotage. All masked by our union. He didn't even flinch. I believe you. She studied him. And you're willing to oppose your own father? I have no interest in a political marriage, Valen said. Especially not with someone who's clearly fallen for someone else. Heat rushed to her cheeks. You know. I arrived earlier than expected. I saw you and the commander in the Arboretum. Your translator might have failed you once, but your body language didn't. Lyrian couldn't help a small, embarrassed smile. And what about you? I've formed an attachment, Valen admitted. Sophia Stewart. Human. Brilliant. Terrifying. My father would be furious. She laughed, surprised. Then it's a theme. Valen stepped closer. If we both oppose the ceremony, we'll be punished separately. But if we act together. We have a plan, Lyrian said. Security has the files. We just need a moment where Arthur exposes himself. Publicly. Valen's brow furrowed. The ceremony. Exactly. At that moment, her communicator chimed. Urgent message. From Cashin. Security office. Now. Bring Valen if possible. They exchanged a glance and moved fast, slipping through side corridors. When they arrived, Cashin was already there. Standing beside Unity Station's commander, a sharp-featured human woman with silver-streaked black hair and a gaze like a weapon. Ambassador Vey. Diplomat PRA, she greeted. Commander Holt has brought troubling evidence. We have reason to believe Counselor Arthur is working against the Galactic Accord. We want to help stop him, Lyrian said. Cashin's eyes met hers. Quiet gratitude. Fierce admiration. You're both willing to testify, the commander asked. Valen nodded. I've watched my father erode the values of our people. It ends now. Then we act carefully, the commander said. An arrest would spark political outrage. But a public confession. We can bait it out, Lyrian said. At the ceremony. And we'll be ready, the commander said. As the meeting adjourned, Cashin gently tugged Lyrian aside. His voice was low, personal. You sure about this? No. But it's right. And us? He asked softly. Where do we fit in? She touched his hand. Right here. With the people who matter. The rest will follow. He didn't answer with words. Just a glance that said everything. The world might unravel tomorrow. But tonight, Lyrian felt her footing, her purpose, and her heart, settling into place. The station's grand observation deck had been transformed. Starlight spilled in through the arched transparent dome above, filtering down across ceremonial Kalenian banners, shimmering silk panels, and polished obsidian altars. Human and Kalenian delegates stood in cautious clusters, diplomats in formal attire, envoys exchanging murmured pleasantries. On any other day, it would have been the pinnacle of interstellar pomp. Today, it was a trap. Lyrian stood beside Valen at the front, both dressed in traditional bonding regalia. Her robes shimmered with oceanic blues and silver filaments, symbols of heritage, of house, of duty. But beneath the folds, her translator disc was linked to a hidden transmitter in her sash. Unity Station security had a direct audio feed. Cassian would be watching from the delegation floor, waiting for the signal. She caught his eye across the room. He gave the slightest nod. It was time. Counselor Ather stepped onto the central dais, his expression a picture of dignified authority. He spread his arms as the room quieted. Today, he began in standard, we witnessed the union of two ancient houses. A union that not only strengthens our people but symbolizes the enduring partnership between the Keelan and the humans of Earth. Lyrian's fingers twitched. Ather continued. Let this bond serve as a beacon of unity. Let it reaffirm that despite differences in form or history, purpose binds us. She stepped forward, interrupting. Before we proceed, she said clearly, I request the right to speak. A ripple passed through the crowd. Ather's smile didn't falter, but his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. This is highly irregular, Ambassador. It is also highly necessary. Cassian tapped his communicator. Lyrian turned to face the audience. When representatives of both our peoples are gathered, she said, voice steady, honesty must be our highest principle. Ather moved forward. This is not the time. Valen stepped beside her. It is exactly the time. Commander Harrington rose from her seat and activated a portable projector. A holographic display sprang to life above the crowd, coded documents, intercepted transmissions, communiques bearing the seal of the Kalenian supremacy faction. Ather's voice rose. This is a fabrication. A smear orchestrated by your own ambition, Lyrian said. She turned to the gathered crowd. We have evidence that Counselor Ather has conspired with extremist factions to sabotage the upcoming human-Keelan trade accords. Operation Sundered Alliance is real. And this rushed ceremony was designed to place me at the center of that sabotage. Ather's face darkened. You forget your place, girl. I've remembered it, she said coldly. A diplomat's duty is not to serve power. It is to serve truth. Ather's fury burned through the calm facade. You dare lecture me? After your little affair with your liaison? Gasps rippled across the crowd. A translator error, Lyrian said evenly. One that led to unexpected, but not unwelcome, consequences. She reached up and unclipped her translator disc, holding it high. Technology can fail. But our values must not. What I found here, what we found, was real. Not political. Not strategic. Human. Across the room, Cassian stood taller. Ather turned to Valen, desperate now. You would betray your own blood. I would protect what the Keelan should be, Valen replied. You've lost your way. Security officers moved in. Ather backed toward the ceremonial altar. You'll regret this. All of you. No, Lyrian said. You will. Two guards reached him and secured his wrists, leading him from the dais as the assembled delegates murmured in shock and fury. Some Keelan looked outraged. Others, relieved. In the chaos that followed, Lyrian stepped down from the platform. Cassian approached her slowly, weaving through stunned dignitaries. "That was quite a speech," he said quietly. "Did I overdo it?" He gave her a soft smile. "Only the part about consequences being not unwelcome." "I meant it," she said. His eyes searched hers. "So, what happens now?" Before she could answer, a new voice joined them, Ambassador Cyril, her father's old colleague, his expression inscrutable. "You've made quite an impression, Ambassador Vey." Lyrian straightened. "Will the Corps recall me?" "Unlikely," he said. "Your actions today may have averted a diplomatic collapse. You exposed a conspiracy. Protected an alliance. And you demonstrated the kind of courage that earns promotions." Relief bloomed in her chest. Cyril's eyes twinkled slightly. "Though perhaps we should upgrade your translator. Just in case." He walked off, leaving them alone again. Cassian reached for her hand, fingers entwining. "You're staying." "I am," she said. "And us?" She stepped closer. "I'd like to continue learning about your culture." Slowly. Thoroughly. He leaned in, forehead against hers. "I think I can arrange that." Across the room, Valen clinked glasses with a human woman, Sophia, if Lyrian had to guess. He raised his glass subtly in her direction. She smiled and nodded back. The ceremony was over. But something far more important had begun. The crisis had passed, but Unity Station was far from quiet. Hours after Counselor Ather had been taken into custody, diplomatic corridors still buzzed with emergency council meetings, follow-up debriefings, and hushed conversations. The galactic media sphere would erupt within hours, statements would be prepared, denials issued, and policies rewritten. But for now, Lyrian Vey could breathe. She stood by the viewport in Cassian's office, watching the twin moons of the gas giant drift past. Her reflection shimmered faintly against the glass, flanked by the stars beyond. Behind her, Cassian tapped through encrypted communiques, updating security logs. He paused when he noticed her watching him. "You look like someone who's just survived a war." Lyrian gave a small laugh. "In a way, I did." "Diplomatic combat," he mused. "Less blood. More policy memos." She turned toward him. "There's still one conversation I haven't had." "With Valen?" She nodded. "He's waiting in the Arboretum. Asked to speak before he returns to Keeler." "Do you want me to come with you?" Lyrian shook her head. "No. This is a goodbye only I can give." Cassian rose, stepping close. "And when you're done?" She smiled faintly. "Then I'm coming back here. To you." The Arboretum was quiet, hollow and still after the tension of the last few days. Valen stood beneath one of the artificial trees, his robe exchanged for simple diplomatic travel wear. His expression was contemplative, not wounded. "You came," he said. "I owed you that much." He gestured toward the bench where they'd sat before. She joined him. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm not angry. Disappointed, maybe. But not surprised." "I never meant to deceive you," she said. "You didn't," he replied. "Not really. We were both caught in someone else's plans." She looked at him carefully. "You still love her, don't you?" "Sophia." Valen's expression softened. "With every part of me that never wanted to be a pawn in my father's empire." "I'm glad," Lyrian said. "You should tell her." He chuckled. "If she doesn't punch me first." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of circulating air and the artificial birdsong program to calm overstimulated diplomats. "Will your people believe you?" she asked. "Enough of them will," he said. "Ather's fall will shake the supremacy faction. Others will rise to fill the void, but we've bought time." Maybe enough to change direction. Lyrian nodded. And Keeler will still need a diplomat here. He raised an eyebrow. Planning to stay, Ambassador? I am. My reassignment came through already. Nurth Cyril approved it personally. You always were meant for more than ceremonies and arranged futures. She stood. We both were. Valen rose beside her, extending his hand. No regrets. Only that we didn't have this conversation sooner. They clasped hands, not as betrothed, not as diplomats, but as allies. Then she walked away, the robe of her office flowing behind her like a banner of change. Cassian was waiting when she returned. No words were needed. He stood, stepped toward her, and embraced her, no protocol, no translator, just warmth. Just her and him. Later, they sat side by side on the low couch in his quarters. She had exchanged her ceremonial robes for a standard all-species fleet jumpsuit. It suited her far better. Cassian passed her a steaming mug of something that smelled vaguely of cinnamon and starlight. So, he said, now that you've resolved your arranged marriage, averted political sabotage, exposed a treasonous counselor, and saved the alliance, what's next? She tilted her head, mock serious. I believe I'm due for a proper lesson in human courtship rituals. He chuckled. Starting with? Something subtle, she said. Eye contact. Proximity. Casual touches. His fingers brushed hers. Like this? Exactly. They sat there, hands entwined, watching the stars move. And somewhere in the silence between them, Lyrian Vey, the girl who once bowed to tradition, became a woman who shaped her own destiny. It all began with a translation error. A misstep that became a spark. And in the end, the deepest connection between them needed no translation at all. And that's our story. What began as a diplomatic miscommunication turned into a choice that changed 2 lives and the fate of an alliance. If you enjoyed this sci-fi tale of love, duty, and unexpected rebellion, don't forget to subscribe to Galactic Protocol, like the video, and share it with someone who'd appreciate a little romance with their space politics. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep looking to the stars.